Okay, we're set to go, Brent, when you are.
All right, welcome everybody. It is now 1:33 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order for the zoning administrator. And as you all know, this is a virtual meeting, and we've got an order to agenda that I'll go through here in just a minute. And it's November 12th, 2020. And after calling the meeting to order, I will turn to Jim. Jim, do we have determination of noticing?
Yes, legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you very much, Jim. And next up is our regular agenda. We have one item on the agenda. And hold on a second. I'm losing my power here for a second. Okay. So we have determination noticing, and the first item up on the regular agenda, we have one item. It's case minor use permit 2016-0022 is the owner applicant.
2018.
I'm sorry, is that 18? Like
18.
wait,
Yeah, sorry.
wait a second. Let me get my glass. I gotta have my new glasses. 2018-0022. The owner applicant is Sayer and Amy Stotham. It's a request for a use permit to conduct automotive and equipment repairs, heavy as cottage industry, general, in an existing structure. The environmental determination of staff is negative declaration, and the property is located at 24190 Prairie Flower Road in Mendocino, California. It's in District 5, and it's the staff planner is Keith Gronendijk. And Keith, I'd like you, if you could, what we're going to do is start off the meeting with Keith giving a presentation. He's already presented the project before, but update, take us at project, and then any changes in your staff report or if you've made any changes in your recommended conditions of approval. And then what we'll do after that is I'd like to turn it over to the applicant to see if they want to add anything to that. Then I'm going to open it up for public comments. And then after public comment, I'll close public comment, and it'll be back to the zoning administrator, and I'll ask some questions, and a decision will be made at the end of the meeting. So with that, Keith, if you could take us through a summary of where we're at, where we were, where we're at, and what your recommendation is on the project.
Okay, thank you. This is Keith Gronendijk, Mendocino County Planning. My notes here, it says on December 12th, 2019, there was a discussion at the zoning administrator hearing on that date, noting a few concerns and questions about inadequate width of the private road, refuse pickup, parking of vehicles associated with the auto repair business, wildfire concerns, creation of dust by the auto repair business, possible groundwater contamination by the business. The business disturbs the rural character of the vicinity, and possible grading violations. As a result, Mr. Schultz, the zoning administrator, considered arranging an on-site visit to the applicant's property along with visiting neighboring properties to assess the validity of the issues brought up during the meeting. But a concern arose about the site visit and whether it would be considered a public meeting, which would require that a public notice be prepared. The final action taken was that the use permit U 2018-022 was continued to the January 9th, 2020 administrator meeting. And at that meeting, Mr. Schultz, zoning administrator, opened the public hearing and immediately continued the item to a future hearing date and time uncertain. That was the last action on this item. Due to various natural disasters, COVID-19, and wildland fires, further action was not really that easy to do. And as far as there could be some latitude in some of the conditions of approval, we may be able to have a time limit on the original, or on the time limit on the use permit, saying like for a year have the the operation operate for a year and then maybe after a year reevaluate it. I don't know if that's something we could maybe do. I did something like that previously.
Is that your recommendation?
That would be one of my recommendations, is maybe putting a time limit on the initial operating time limit for the
Okay.
use permit. And if we have a substantial amount of code complaints, maybe trigger that to be another hearing date. And I also would recommend that a separate condition reading, the business hours of operation shall be limited to the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and only be open Monday through Friday. I think those are the only two that I really had some issues with. That might make it a little bit more doable. So that would be my presentation.
And your recommendation is for the
To,
project is what?
What's that?
What is your ultimate recommendation on the project?
I would recommend to conditionally approve the project with the
Okay.
changes,
All
or with the
right.
addition of those two other conditions.
All right, and that concludes your presentation?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Keith. Next up, I'd like to ask Jim, if you can bring the applicant, if they're here, if they want to add anything about their application for consideration.
So, and Director Schultz, this is Julia Acker-Krog. It does not appear that we have the applicant wanting, that they submitted wanting to speak at the item today. So we do have telecommenters available on the line, but we don't actually, it does not appear that we have a representative of the application available
Okay.
on the line.
Okay, so given that the applicant's not here, let's move and open up public comment. I'd like to hear anybody out there who'd like to give me some public comments and input on this before I bring it back and ask some questions.
Sure, so we have 4 telecomment requests here, and we're going to go in the order that they were received. So the first off is Christina Velasq. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Christina.
No.
Okay.
Cancel.
And if I could, with those who are going to be speaking about the item, if, I know we have heard previous testimony from the public on this. If you could keep this to new information or something maybe we haven't already heard yet, that would be great. I'd like to hear any of that information you have, but and if you could kind of not retrace areas we've already covered before.
And so, Christina, I've brought you over into the meeting here, and I have a timer going here that I'll start once you begin speaking for 3 minutes, and I'll announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. So when you are ready, please go ahead and begin your comments, and just start by stating your name for the record. Christina, I'm not hearing your audio coming through. And yeah, I see your hand raised, Christina, but we're not able to hear you. So I'm not sure if you have sound connected or not. And if you're on a telephone, don't forget it's *6 to unmute yourself. So since, Christina, I'm still not getting you, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next public commenter. And what I just recommend is take a look at the meeting invite. You can also call in on a telephone to make sure that we're able to hear your audio. And you just have to call the number that's provided and enter in the meeting ID number. And so I am going to go to the next public commenter that we have on the line, which is Hollis Lazur. So just give me a moment here while I go ahead and do some rearranging here. So now let me go in, and so I'm going to bring over Hollis Lazur. Okay, Hollis, I've just brought you over into the meeting. When you are ready, please go ahead and unmute yourself, and you do have 3 minutes, and please just state your name for the record.
I'm Hollis Lazur. I'm here to voice my opposition to this permit. Statham has shown he is totally uninterested in integrating his business into the established character of our residential neighborhood, and his repeated disregard for regulations of Mendocino County and state EPA give me no reason to think he should be trusted with this business. Since he has a mobile auto repair business, he is already not in compliance since he has been operating for the past year, even though he's told the county he has not been. I submitted 9 tow truck pictures, all taken different dates, different times, to show that, and this is what I have seen. Although his activity is somewhat scaled back from 2018 levels. In September of 2018, William Nolte, Environmental Health, made a site visit and instructed Statham to contact the EPA, get his ID number, and register with the Cal EPA STRS program in order to report his hazardous material use. Statham finally got his EPA ID and registered with STRS in January of 2019, almost 4 months later, after Mr. Nolte gave him a 10-day warning to comply. So there are dozens of cars abandoned on the property, parked and deteriorating on open ground, no asphalt or pavement beneath them. I submitted photos also of an area under the trees that don't show up on Google Earth. And there are a dozen cars and a boat over there, and that is on our adjoining property line. All of them sitting on the dirt and have been there for years. From what I can see in the Mendocino County Code of Ordinances, the county may very well define this as an unpermitted junkyard, as it is more than 100 square feet of salvage or scrap materials. In addition to that, from what I can see from my property and neighbor properties, there is concrete debris and old cars sitting outside the property line.
And pardon me, Hollis, I just want to let you know you have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, then I will go to, I was prepared for disagreement and a rough road in working through this. I was not prepared, however, for our last interaction, which speaks volumes for Sayer's character. At the end of August this year, I walked onto Prairie Flower Road to take a photo of a tow truck transporting a vehicle. Sayer saw me, walked toward me, and got about 30 feet away, never speaking, stopped, unbuttoned his pants, unzipped his fly, held his waistband open in both hands, and glared at me. He then turned and walked back to his property. It was clearly an intimidation move, and what was worse to me, it was a sexual intimidation. I reported it to the sheriff, and have an incident report was made. It took me many weeks to fully process the fear and anger I felt by this. I think this is relevant in considering his application for a business permit because it speaks to his untrustworthiness and his lack of good judgment. So I guess that's probably it.
That is time, and I do just want to note for the CPA, that was a little bit over, so that was about 4 minutes that we gave for Ms. Lazur's comment, so I will do the same for all other callers as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Lazur. I'm going to go on to the next caller here, so I'm going to keep you, I'm just going to move you back into the waiting room here. Okay. And so next up, we do have Jacob Patterson. So Jacob, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you as well. So Jacob, you are now unmuted. Please do state your name for the record. You will have 4 minutes, and I will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Julia. This is Jacob Patterson. And one, I just want to make sure that you try Christina again. She texted me and said she's back in the meeting.
Great.
But number two, as Brent said, we've already testified primarily, so there's not a lot of new stuff to talk about other than things like Hollis's additional information that she collected since the last meeting. There have been some more documents that were submitted that I assume you reviewed, including the letter demonstrating that the surveyor found the building was too close to the property line. But my main concern about this, and I do want to thank staff, I assume you guys have probably spent a lot more time on this use permit application than is usual, and it is appreciated that it got the proper attention. But I think there is still not enough support in the record, even with the additional conditions that were recommended today to actually justify the findings. So I would recommend that you deny the project and ask the applicant to submit a new application that is compliant with everything. The road is clearly not adequate. I understand the county regularly turns down minor use permits for Airbnbs for private roads that aren't adequate, with much smaller traffic input than things like the giant tow trucks that are regularly coming there now. I see that as the biggest issue with this project. Whether it's approved or not, those are necessary things for the business, and it's really just the wrong location. It's why we have this process. It's why it's not a permitted use in general. And in totality of all the circumstances, I don't see any situation where the findings are justified or supported properly. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patterson. I'm sorry, Director Schultz, did you have
just thank them for their comments.
Okay, so then what I'm going to do next is, let's see here. We have another caller also on the line, and then I will come back to Christina Velasq as well. So next up we have Sean Maloney. So Sean, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. And again, you will have 4 minutes. So when you are ready, Sean, go ahead and unmute yourself. Please do state your name for the record, and I'll announce when you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. I guess I put a collared shirt on for no reason. My name's Sean Maloney. Thank you for allowing me to speak here today. I'm not a resident of Mendocino. I have been coming here since I was a kid. Pictures of me and my brothers and sisters on the bluffs and on the beaches with my family are all over the walls. We always gather here for weddings, and it's 2 of them. Mornings of our loved and lost ones, special anniversaries. It's never been my home. It's always a place that my whole family on both sides always call ours. So that's my skin in the game. My mom lives on Prairie Flower. That's why I'm speaking here today. I'm a full-time fireman for the past 13 years. I did 4 years prior as a volunteer. I've been on multiple big campaign events and seen firsthand, as you all have recently in the news, this past couple of years have been really ramping up. So my concern with that whole area is the actual the forest line coming up to the homes, and with those vehicles being so close to the property line, it takes quite a bit of water to put out one car fire. And I've seen those cars there over the number of years, and that's a lot of water that's necessary to put those out. And once those things get going, gets into trees, encroaches on neighboring homes, there's no infrastructure put in place for fire hydrants. All the water brought in is done so with fire engines, which only has a few hundred gallons, 4 or 5, and that's enough for a car fire and maybe a shed. You need to bring in water trucks, 1,000+ gallons, and even then, you're coming down that road. As someone spoke earlier, those are narrow roads. So that's a long stretch, getting a turnaround, trucks meeting head to head. That's a lot of debris. It's a lot of things, the upholstery, the tires. I know there's magnesium in some vehicles that can't even be put out with water because it burns so hot. It's a big deal. and the contaminants leaking from those vehicles. I know all those wells out there are really shallow, and anything going into the water table, it doesn't take long. So I'm just speaking here in my concern for my mother and that whole area. It's a special place. It means a lot to me, and that's where I'm coming from on it all. So that's about all I got. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now next, I'm going to go ahead and just move you back into our waiting room. So I'm going to try Christina here again. Let's see if we can make this work here. So Christina, you'll just be rejoining here. So Christina, I hope we have you on the line here now. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and do start by stating your name for the record. And note that you will have, I will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. And it's *6 to unmute if you're on a telephone. And Christina, unfortunately, we are still not hearing you right now. You may want to check to make sure that your audio is connected in the bottom corner of the Zoom meeting. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. And we're still not able to hear you yet, Christina.
I know that can be frustrating when you can't find your mute button, like I just didn't grab my mute button.
So I'm unsure, Director Schultz, if you want to take a pause for a minute here, and we can try to assist Ms. Velasquez with her connectivity challenges so she can provide her comment. Or if you'd like to keep going with the hearing, and we can come back when her audio is enabled.
Sure. Can maybe somebody try to call her and help her
Yes.
unmute her PC or wherever she's at?
Yes, sounds good.
So I will.
Should we maybe take a few minute break for that, so that way she doesn't miss any part either?
How about we take like a 5-10 minute pause?
Probably.
Okay, so let's pause the meeting and see if we can help Christina get online here with us so she can give her public comments.
Okay, great. So let me try to call her.
Hello?
Oh, Christina, now we can hear you.
Oh my goodness, I'm calling in on my phone. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Hold on one moment, Christina. Let's make sure we get Brent back on the line, but it sounds like we do have your audio working now, so that is great. So just stay paused for a moment here.
Okay, am I supposed to be talking?
We'll just keep you muted for the next few minutes here until we get Director Schultz back here on the line. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'm back.
Oh. Okay, so it looks like we do have Director Schultz back now. So Christina, yes, it's perfect. Looks like you've unmuted yourself. And so we are at that public comment period, and you will have 4 minutes. So please just state your name for the record, and I'll announce when you have 30 seconds remaining.
This is Christina Velasq. I am the neighbor at 24193 Prairie Flower Road. I just would like to log my hope that this use permit is denied for many reasons that I submitted in public comments, but mainly because of the environmental hazards that are posed by the large number of cars that are there, the pollution that is not only possible into the ground, that has leached into the ground, but also the air pollution. It's a hazard for our families and the neighborhoods. The dust, the noise, in my opinion, improper location for a business of this size. It's my understanding that a business that has grown to this extent is, according to Mendocino County's own codes, supposed to move on from the Class K cottage industry, even heavy, once it reaches a proportion that it has reached. The noise pollution that is actually ongoing. My husband is not here in the meeting. He's at the property just trying to do some cleanup because we have been unable to either rent nor sell our property due to specifically the junkyard that is next door. Anytime someone comes to either rent it or purchase it, that has been their very first comment, the noise, the smells, and the sights of the myriad of broken down cars. Today, for example, my husband did a very short clip recording, sent it to me. I tried to submit it as a public comment, but unfortunately it was larger than 5 megabits. So I was unable to do so, but there are currently 4 or 5 men working in the bays, both doors open, music blaring, just not conducive to what our neighborhood used to be like. It's very small, as has been mentioned. The road is very narrow. It's impossible for a vehicle coming out of the neighborhood to make it to Powers Road if one of Mr. Statham's delivery trucks, which are several per day, or tow trucks, which are several per week, are coming in the opposite direction. There are, as has been mentioned, several blind turns. There's so much dust that is now present because of all of these vehicles coming and going. As has been mentioned, the fire hazard is extremely concerning. Mr. Statham has probably 40 tires piled up behind his shop itself because he's been getting tire deliveries and interstate battery deliveries almost daily. From what we can tell, these tires are just being piled up. More cars are being piled up. We're just very concerned about both the fire hazard as well as the number of new cars that are coming in and out, in to our shallow wells, as has been stated as well. It has the building itself has been shown to be built too close to our property line, first off.
Pardon me, Christina, I just want to let you know you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. All of the trees were completely clear cut for about an acre, including right up to the property line. So our beautiful forest view is now a horrible view of a 2-story tin building, and the noise reverberates very loudly with the doors open or closed, with the air power tools, etc. So it's just, we're very concerned that it's ruined the property values and the feel of the neighborhood. Thank you.
And that concludes, Director Schultz, that concludes all requests for telecomment.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for those comments. And I'd like to kind of go over some of the conditions of approval that staff had recommended here. And one of the first ones I wanted to point out is that the staff is recommending that this minor use permit only be allowed for a 2-year span, and that the applicant would have to reapply then to continue it past that date? Am I looking at that condition, my condition 1?
I would, this is Keith Gronendijk, Mendocino Planning. I would have a caveat that it's good for 2 years, unless there's, or after those 2 years, we would reevaluate the project.
This was how you had written that originally in one of the last memos.
So it could be revoked then if they were not complying with any of these conditions.
Yes, I wrote previously, this use permit approval shall be for an initial period of 2 years. If after that this time period, staff determines through code enforcement complaints or other means that the use is detrimental to the health, safety, comfort, or welfare of the public, revocation proceedings of use permit shall be initiated by Mendocino County.
And then the other thing I want to point out is you've limited it to 3 employees, correct?
Correct.
At the site. Whereas right now, I don't think we have any restriction. Also, right now, he is not in compliance with condition 9. Let me read this. Aspects of cottage industry, including equipment storage and parking related thereto, shall not exceed 2,000 square feet given this existing structure, limited to 246 square feet of outdoor parking for customer vehicles. So if this was approved, he would have to remove a lot of these vehicles that are stored on the property according to that condition. Is that correct, planner?
Yes, that would be correct.
So this does put restrictions on the use of that land there.
Correct. Yeah, there's quite a few conditions that we'd have a hard time meeting.
The other thing is, I see also that any vehicles that are in that 240 square feet have to have pans placed under them. That would be another condition, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So they're not, so the oil's not dripping on the ground. Also, you had the other condition that restricts how many cars can be delivered there. There's only, what is it, 3 a day?
Give me a second.
I think that's no painting. And 29, the applicant shall not have customers on site. Pickup and delivery of customer vehicles and minor transactions shall be conducted off premises. And furthermore, the applicant is limited to no more than 3 delivery vehicles. Correct? Is that what your condition was?
That would be delivering.
So you're proposing really limiting what the applicant can do there, it appears to me, as well as keeping the lights downcast, putting up, I think there's a barrier here too that you're recommending. And the other one too is this one that I think is very important. And it is this, Mr. Statham has to meet with our building official, our building staff, convert that structure from a Class K to an appropriate occupancy to allow for him to utilize that structure for repairing vehicles. Is that correct? So he will not, if this is approved, he has to get in and get that permit and do the work before he can use that structure. Or
Correct.
he'd be in violation of this condition. Is that correct?
Correct. Condition 32 says prior to the issuance of a business license for the cottage industry auto repair facility, a building permit shall be obtained from the Mendocino County Building Department to convert the existing accessory structure from a Class K limited density rural dwelling construction type to a fully permitted commercial structure that fully complies with all required building code requirements associated with commercial structures, and he would have to submit proof to the planning department.
As well as staff will review that building permit when it comes through.
One of the conditions that I feel like that staff has a good job confining it to that 2,000 square feet so that it's a cottage industry. And I appreciate that because I am concerned about the neighbor. I don't want this to be a negative impact on them, but a lot of this is the applicant complying with these conditions. And right now we don't have these conditions in place. It's very hard for us to do anything without these conditions on a project. So yes, we do have code enforcement and the code enforcement has gone out there and then Mr. Statham came in and one of the things I am pleased he came in and applied. So let me ask you something, Keith. This hours of operation on this, I thought I saw the hours of operation limited, was it 8 to 8 or is that noise?
I think
8 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Keith Grunbeck, that would be.
That's 18 noise?
Yes. I don't think.
What about limiting hours of operation of the business there? Where they're actually working on the vehicles?
I would limit it to like a normal business from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay, I'd like to see a condition added to this that the business not operate before the hours of 8 a.m. in the morning and not after 5 p.m. at night.
That's good. And Monday
Now,
through Friday.
what about this issue about there was some kind of a barrier on, is it on the south property? Oh, one other thing I want to point out too, the permit would not be issued, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Planner, until the plans met the California Building Code, right? And two, we look at a site plan to make sure the 30-foot setback is maintained.
Yes, and
So
that
that is,
setback is double checked by building inspectors when they actually do the inspections at the site of the building construction.
so if there's a problem there, it's up to Mr. Statham and an appropriate subdivision map to show us and maybe survey that 30-foot setback can be maintained. So we would make sure that would happen when
That's
it came
correct.
into our building permit process.
Correct.
The other thing, what about this external lighting shall be shielded, downcast, or put light in the evenings? I like that. Because
And that's a standard code requirement for dark sky policies. So that should be, it's captured also in just our standard conditions that say that all activities, this is condition 2, must be conducted in conformance with provisions of Title 20 of Mendocino County Code. But I believe it's called out as a specific condition as well.
Yes.
And then I thought I saw also a condition on landscaping. Was it on the south property line?
Let's see.
I know I saw the public comment, somebody in there, I think asked for was it an 8-foot fence?
believe-
Yes, Christina Velasq was asking for an 8-foot fence along that property line. I do have comments from environmental health, and the person that went out there was saying there's already a berm there along that south property line.
Would it be appropriate to add some more landscaping or something to better shield it from the adjacent property? Is that a condition that could be added? Or is that not appropriate?
We could add something to that effect for landscaping and or a fence. We do that with other projects as well, so.
I'd like to see some type of an appropriate landscaping and or, fences can be just so oppressive and large, especially in a beautiful environment like that with all the trees. But I'd really prefer something like some type of planting or something to buffer it to the adjacent neighbor
To the south?
to the south.
So maybe it's something regarding that either landscaping or fencing shall be constructed to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator. So that way, Brent, you would get an opportunity to take a look at what was proposed to be constructed and see whether or not that satisfies your concern.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. I thought that was a good point from the neighbors. I think I want to point out on this is I am concerned about the neighbors. I'm concerned that I think that if the building is constructed properly to meet the appropriate occupancy standard, and they're not using, and even I believe it's conditioned they cannot use air tools there. Now I know electric driven tools make noise, but hopefully they're quieter, and there is noise standards in here. So, but it's going to take Mr. Stotham,
Yes.
I don't know, it could take him a year to get through the plan check process, get these conditions complied with before we can issue a business license. Is that correct, Keith?
Yes. they would have-
So technically we could possibly see him maybe quicker, maybe later, but that he'd be in operation for only a year with a 2-year time frame.
Correct, yes. It would be onerous to have them comply with all these requirements, but then again, that might satisfy the neighbors a little bit better.
Anyway, well, that is the things that I think I'd like to see added to the conditions. Do we want to recap this, Chief Planner Keith? And then I'll make a final determination on it.
You want to just run through what these changes were real quick?
Sure, the condition to limit hours of operation from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday would be added, along with a condition to add landscaping and/or fencing along the south property line, subject to the approval of the zoning administrator.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was, is what about a condition so that he cleans up the property quickly? So there's not all these vehicles parked out property.
Director Schultz, you could always consider adding a timing component to that condition, specifying within a certain amount of time after approval of this permit or whatever time period you may be thinking of, that the property shall be, clear of anything that exceeds that amount, and an inspection shall be requested, maybe either by planning staff or code enforcement to visit the site and ensure that compliance has been achieved.
What about we put that all those vehicles must be must be in compliance with the 2,000 square foot limit when we issue I don't know, the C of O on his building, because then we can issue a business license, right? So as a part of checking all he's complied with the landscaping, and he's complied with all the other conditions, we could put that all those vehicles must be out of there. And he must be, when he starts day one with this new business, that he doesn't have more than 2,000 square feet allocated to this business there. Is that okay? You think that would work?
Mm-hmm. That's in line with how we've done conditions on other projects in the past.
So
So given that Mr. Statham has not, he's not joined us here, right? Is that correct?
Correct. We don't seem
Yeah.
to have him here on the line.
Okay. Well, those are my conditions for the project to move forward. I'm gonna.
And Director
approve.
Schultz, I do want to let you know we have a hand raised from some of the public commenters. I'm unsure if you wish to hear any additional public comment on this item.
Sure. Once you, let them back in if they like to speak
Okay.
to me.
So this is, I'm going to, Hollis, I've just brought you back into the meeting with your hand raised. So please unmute yourself when you're ready, and please state your name for the record.
Hollis LaSur. So my question is, you had said 8 to 5, no weekends originally, and when Keith repeated it, the no weekends part was omitted. Does he get to operate his business as he is doing now while he's trying to come into compliance? And also, looking at we did the math on the size of his property and on how many, the area of square feet he has for all those cars, and he's in junkyard territory. So it's not just the cars around the business, it's the cars everywhere.
And that's why I placed a condition, Hollis, on it, where he basically, while he's in this next year, by the time when the building is done and meets the California building code for that and for the internal operation that he's going to be doing there, he has to have all those vehicles out of there, and he cannot be over 2,000 square feet, right? He's got the interior 1746 and he 246 outside. That's it. If he exceeds that, he'll be breaking the conditions of approval.
Now, will he be able to operate now while he is, as he is now?
He can, I believe, Juliet, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, would that be no, or is that, can he operate under that current business license that he has for mobile auto repair?
The response is no. He is not authorized to be operating at this time. He is authorized with a business license for a off-site service provider, so he can provide those services at other locations, not at his home.
Yeah, so can't do it there. So that's your so that's your answer, Hollis. No, they can't. No, he can't.
And
so he should be, this next year, he should be very busy with our building plan checkers, submitting construction drawings, how he's going to comply with California building code. How does it comply or not with that 30 feet? Because I've heard comments from the public that it doesn't. He's got to prove the property line is 30 feet building. So
basically I'm back in the position of picture taker, of just taking.
You should let us know, continue to let us know if he's not complying with that. You can get a copy of the conditions so you can see them as well. And this will be revisited 2 years from now. And if he's not complying it, there is he could be complying. I mean, maybe he'll become, run that thing exactly per the conditions of approval. If he is, there may be a chance the zoning administrator at that time would approve an extension of it. But if he's not, the minor use permit can be revoked.
So he cannot operate now since he has a mobile repair license. And so I will document, as I will take pictures, but you understand that puts me, his anger toward me has come to new levels, as I stated, the end of August. And that puts me in a vulnerable position that I don't think is fair for a taxpayer in this county. This has very negatively impacted where I live, and now since the end of August, how I feel about where I live. And that to me is very unfair. He has been given so much latitude in these past 2 years and 3 months since I filed that complaint. And I don't think anybody has really looked at me. I have tried to be respectful. I have tried to be patient. I have tried to do everything you asked of me. And now I am in this, it's a terrible position to be in with Sayer as my neighbor, because to be honest with you, I don't know what's coming next. That incident shook me, really shook me, which is why my son is speaking. And I am in a vulnerable position that I think the county needs to really take that into consideration, because he has been given a lot of latitude, and I think he is he's definitely feeling pretty cocky about it. And to intimidate a neighbor, and a neighbor who used to be a good friend, is it's really hard for me to live with. And so thank you for listening to me on this.
Thank you, Hollis.
I really hope that, you know, we're all really diligent in this process. If this is the way you're going to go, I have no choice but to respect it. But I did want to go on notice as to what happened here out on our private road, and I really hope the county is really diligently holding him accountable at every stage. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hollis.
And I do just want to comment, if I can, real quick to the speaker, that just if there are violation of conditions, just to remember that the 2-year time frame that Keith read into the record and Director Schultz was leaning towards with the condition, that is, if there's complaints received, it may be that the permit is up for consideration sooner than a 2-year period. So just do keep that in mind. And then, so Director Schultz, we do have 2 other individuals here that had provided previous comment that have also raised their hands. So I'm unsure if you're wanting to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please let them in.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to bring in Christina Velasq, who had her hand up here. So Christina will be being rejoined here. So Christina, if we have you, please unmute yourself and do state your name for the record. And as a reminder, it's *6 to unmute. And Christina, we're not able to hear you at the moment. So I'm still unable to hear. So it might be that you need to do that same connection with your phone that you did previously as well. Well, so while let's see here. Now, Christina, do we have you now?
She's gone.
So then until we get Christina on the line here, I'm going to go ahead and allow the next speaker here, which is Jacob Patterson, and bring him over. So Mr. Patterson, I've just brought you over into the meeting. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Yes, Jacob Patterson. This is very brief. I believe you already changed the condition a little bit, but I'm a little concerned about the original wording of general condition number 1 that said it will expire 2 years after the effective date. The language that concerns me, and I just want an interpretation of it, or how you guys interpret it, except where use of the property in reliance on such permit has been initiated prior to its expiration. That, to me, seems like a big loophole. I just want to make sure that it will, in fact, expire unless the SARE, the applicant, reapplies for an extension that will have to go through another zoning administrator public hearing at that time, as well as the other thing that you guys talked about of the 2 years. So I just want to make sure that they're not conflicting language in how it will be interpreted.
And Director Schultz, I can field that if you like.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so the way that condition is interpreted by staff, and how it's a standard condition we have. So essentially, when you're granted a use permit, it's saying that you have 2 years to actually start the activity that you're being permitted for. Otherwise, the permit becomes null and void. So essentially, it gives Mr. Statham 2 years to initiate his business. It does not entitle that permit can go past that 2-year period if there's another condition that says it expires after 2 years. So this condition is really about when you need to initiate your business, and it gives you 2 years from when your permit's approved to initiate your business. There may be another condition, which I believe is what was read into the record, that would limit this to a 2-year period under which it would have to come back for renewal.
Okay, thank you for that.
clarify?
Thank you for that clarification. That
Okay.
addresses my concern.
Okay, Thank you. And it does appear, Director Schultz, that Ms. Velasquez is available here on the line. So Christina, when you are ready, please go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
I'm terribly sorry. Yes, this is Christina Velasquez. And I just had a couple of last comments to make. I am wondering if that additional 246 square feet that are being allowed for the parking, does that include the employee parking for the 3 employees that he will be, he has at his shop working today? There's 4 of them or 5 of them in the shop today working. And secondly, I would like to say that I feel very badly that Hollis is the one that's having to monitor this. We did take a very expensive security camera over there and had it mounted. But as you know, we don't live on the property, and it was stolen. So it has unfortunately fallen to Hollis to do this. So we feel very badly about that and wish that there was some other way, perhaps through the applicant having to have his own security footage that he would have to submit to the county.
In that
as
area
well.
too.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
It's all about the whole business being conducted in that area.
Okay. Hmm.
Oh. And it appears we have lost our zoning administrator here on the line. So I am going to, it is 2:30. I am going to take a 10-minute pause here to ensure you might be having technical difficulties to ensure he's back on the line. So everyone, please bear with us.
Restroom then.
Why is she not showing up on this?
She came in through the,
Okay.
Hello.
Director Schultz, I just put us on a little pause till we could get you back on the line here. So we're just taking a 5-minute pause here. We'll be back at 2:35.
I don't know what happened. I got cut off there. Everything just shut off.
Technological difficulties.
Yeah, that was weird. You all froze and then
Shut down.
my Sonos shut off.
Doing your mailing also.
so, this one's huge.
Multitasking.
It's that ag. It's the Capistrano Ranch. It's
Oh, it's
a
huge.
page and a
Yeah.
half a label.
Okay. I believe it.
My internet connection is. Shut off your phone, honey.
Look at the APNs from Capistrano Ranch.
Oh my gosh, it hurts my eyes. Hold on, I don't even think I can read it. Wow. The post office is going to be like, what? It's 8-point font. I can't read this. It's probably like 6-point font.
That's their fault. They have that many APNs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like an ice cube in here. My hands are so cold.
It's really cold. Felt good in the hallway.
Oh. I don't know how you guys can wear shirts. I'd just be frozen solid.
Well, less sweating in my office.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess if you've been overheating all day, you're probably like, thank goodness I'm cold.
Oh.
We lose Brent right before.
Is he gone again?
Yep.
Oh, what's happening?
I don't know. I think he hits the wrong button. But I don't know.
So if this gets approved, then code enforcement's gonna have to shut him down, or he's gonna have to shut himself down voluntarily.
Honestly, yeah, I think pretty much immediately. I think he's made the claim before that he's been doing it, only working on his own personal vehicles with friends.
Yeah,
So,
that's not true.
yeah, we just want to make sure, we'll probably want to re-review the hearing audio, make sure you have all the conditions captured for the action sheet too,
Yeah.
any changes,
Yeah.
and then make sure that's all run through.
Yeah. Let's see if they appeal it.
So just letting our folks waiting on the line here, it looks like we've lost our zoning administrator again. I think he's having some technical difficulties, so we'll just be, he says he's working to get back on, so give us a couple minutes here. Mhm. Oops, wrong computer here. Okay. All right, it does appear we have Director Schultz here available. Oh, sorry, I am muted.
Hey, Julie.
Schultz here on the line, yes, and we've got you in the meeting here, Brent, whenever you are ready to continue.
Oh, I'm here. Keep going. Sorry about that. My laptop just died. So I'm on my cell phone. So go ahead. It was, who is going to speak next?
I think we have gone through all the additional public comment, at least all the raised hands that I had seen. So you're really at your final deliberation point.
Okay. So anyway, as long as my final conditions are complied with, I will approve use permit 20180022. And what I'm expecting to happen now is for Mr. Statham to start complying with all these conditions and start working on getting the buildings permitted with the proper occupancy. And by the time he starts up again, all of our conditions will be complied with. And I would also ask all of those who are concerned from the public about the project to please send in if you see non-compliance with these conditions of approval, that you send those comments, pictures in to our code enforcement so that we can document that. And like Julia said, depending on what happens, I could pull this up sooner. Is that correct, Julia?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was muted again. Yes, that is correct. If there's any sort of verified, basic violation of conditions, that can be grounds for the zoning administrator to consider revocation or modification of the permit.
And so, and I mean business about what I say there. And if I really want the public to send those comments in, and I will ask our current supervisor, John Burks over in code enforcement, to let me know if anything is running awry in that regard. So anyway, so I approve that with those modified conditions and the conditions in the staff report. The decision of the zoning administrator is appealable within 10 days of this decision, and it would go to the supervisors upon payment of the appeal fee and submittal of an application to the clerk. So with that, is there anything else on this matter, Keith or Julia?
Keith, Grondike Planning. No, I have no other comments.
And
All right, next up is matters from staff. Are there any matters from staff? Item 4.
No matters from staff.
Okay. And any matters from the public?
We had no requests for speaking under matters from public.
Okay, thank you, Chief Planner. If there's no matters from the public, then I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:43 p.m. And I appreciate everybody coming out for this item. Thank you very much. And I'll adjourn it at 2:43.
You got